Hi everyone, it's Alexandra from Maker Forte here at Scrapbook.com. And do you wish that every time you stamped you could get a perfect first impression? Well, now you can. You just have to smush it. So this is the Maker Forte Smoosher. It is hand turned out of wood and it's a nice weight but not too heavy. It fits in the palm of your hand and it has a firm felt pad on the bottom here to give you that perfect first impression. But don't take my word for it. Let me show you how great it really is. And I have lots of different ideas here of ways to use the Smoosher. Whether you are a card maker, a scrapbooker, a mixed media artist, you will use the Smoosher and it will become your new best friend in the craft room. Now, it really was designed to give you that even first impression. So that's what I'm going to start with. And I'm using this adorable stamp set To a Friend. And it has some really thin, crisp lines, which can be a little bit harder to get out sometimes. So I'm going to show you a piece of cardstock into my stamp platform here. And we'll pick it up. And I'm going to use some Maker Forte Remarkable Eclipse Black ink on here as well. And this is on a silicone foam pad. It's instantly alcohol marker friendly, so if you love to color. It's also a rich carbon black. You can see it's nice and fine, but it's going to give you great coverage. And that silicone pad means that you really do get good coverage on your stamp as well. Then we're going to flip over our stamp platform. And before this, I was a CPR stamper, they call it, when you really kind of go to town on it, but that can hurt your hands and it can also give you some wobbles in your stamping. So with the Smoosher, all I'm going to do is just kind of give it a going over like this and then lift up. Look how clear that is. If you've got a little bit that didn't come through, as always, great part of a stamp platform is we re-ink it, flip that lid back over again. Another little bit of pressure down here. But you see, I'm not putting lots of pressure. I'm just putting the palm of my hand down and I'm pressing it just like that. So there's no stress in my hands. And there is a perfect impression. So that's what we designed the Smoosher for in the first place. But it has a ton of other applications. And I'm going to give you a few ideas here. Now, I love the look of watercolor. I am not a watercolor artist. I wish I was. So I developed a stamp called Easy Watercolor that does exactly that. And the Smoosher, again, is your perfect companion. So we are going to put this down. I have already conditioned this stamp with Prime Time. Being a really solid photopolymer stamp, they do tend to be a bit sticky. So that took lots of that sticky residue off. So you see now how easy it is. My cardstock sticks a little bit, but it's not going to tear or rip or any of those kinds of things. And let's choose some of my favorite colors. You might have guessed I'm a pink girl. And I'm going to take, first of all, some grape. So these are our colors. They're really fun names as well. I'm just going to put a little bit through the center there. I'm going to now add neon lights. This is my absolute favorite blue. Again, silicone foam, dye-based, all those kinds of things. And you can smush with them, you can ink with them, you can watercolor with them. You can really go to town with them. And I don't worry so much about the contamination either because you can just re-ink them. And ink is a suspended medium, so you can store these this way up, this way up, this way up. It really doesn't matter. And the silicone foam re-inks the pad as you're going along, so you don't really have to do much. So now I'm going to take a spritz of Mr. Perfect. This is an empty bottle. I filled it with water. There is even a spot for you to write right here what you've put inside of it, and you can get more labels so you can reuse it again and again. But water is one of those staples, I think, that every crafter has on their desk. This is a new one. Just going to get it flowing. And I'm not too much water, but enough that I want those colors to mix. And I'm kind of going to give it a little bit of a swirl. We're going to see what we get. Every time you do this, you're going to get something different, but it's looking pretty good. And the one tip I'm going to give you is just put it down, give it a second, and then we're going to use the Smoosher to start to move that ink around. Again, give it a second. You see it almost like naturally releases in here. You can see that that's kind of just coming up itself. It's telling you it's ready for you to lift it up. Look at that beautifully perfect watercolor. You've even got the brush strokes and everything in there, and it took no effort at all. And that Smoosher is going to give you that perfect movement and everything as well. So that's another way you can use it. Also, you can use it with your background stamps. So whether you use rubber background stamps or photopolymer, you can use any of it. And these ones here are our white rubber. So Maker Forte has a white rubber. It's our own rubber. We actually make all of the stamps in-house, literally with a press. They're all handmade, hand cut and mounted on foam and then on an acetate as well. But the nice thing about the white rubber is you can see what ink you're going to put on. So for instance, I'm going to take some red Leicester Again, one of my favorite colors. Anything that's named a British name, like red Leicester is actually a cheese in England, that's going to be more of that rich royal tone. Your American primaries, your brights, you've got some neons in there, all sorts of fun colors. And then I'm going to mix in some English mustard. A brayer is great to also just go over the join. I like to also give it a little, just one light spritz with the Mr. Perfect, particularly the PhD. It has a really lovely fine mist. And then you can just take your piece of cardstock, pop it on top, and smush. And it's just a little bit different to using a stamp platform, or if you don't have a stamp platform, or maybe you've got a big background stamp and you don't have an acrylic block big enough, or you've got a smaller stamp platform. It's going to do all of that for you. Look at that amazing impression that you've got in there, that beautiful rich colors as well, but so easy to do, which is amazing. I love it. Another idea for you. I'm going to take out a Mr. Maker stamp. These are designed by a male crafter for either masculine cards or mixed media. They're a bit more grungy and fun. And for this one, I'm going to add a little bit of our fog ink. And imagine I was making a tag and I didn't want all of it. This is where, again, your smoosher can come in handy. So I'm going to take a couple of tags here and just lay them on top. And again, I'm just going to smush it down and take elements of it. And of course, then I would build up my layers and everything like this as well. But you can just get those little pieces on there and, you know, start to build that up. Doesn't that look like a fun start to a tag? But with the smoosher, if you like to do the gel press, again, go over your gel press. It's going to give you really, really nice prints. If you have inky fingers like I now do, you can also, you know, if you put your adhesive on the back of your cards and things, I sometimes will just go over and press it down with my smoosher rather than pressing it down with my fingers, because then I don't get any smudges or bleeds, and then we have to find gems and sentiments to cover it. So the smoosher is really going to be your best friend in the craft room. It's going to save you effort. If you find that your hands hurt a lot, I think it's really going to make life easier. And it also can do a ton of techniques. So I hope you enjoy smushing, and I'll see you again soon.